Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter. And what if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket right now could be worth more than most people earn a lifetime? That a single penny sitting forgotten in an old jar or tucked away in a drawer could literally transform your entire financial future overnight? Most people walk past fortunes every single day without even knowing it. And today we're diving into one of the most extraordinary examples of hidden wealth in American numismatic history, the 1953 D-Wheat penny, a coin so deceptively ordinary that you might have spent it on candy or tossed it into a fountain without a second thought. But here's the shocking truth that collectors and treasure hunters don't want you to know. Certain rare specimens of this seemingly common penny have been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $10 million. Yes, you heard that right. $10 million for a penny that most people would never look at twice. And before you think this is just some fantasy or exaggeration, stick with me because the story gets even more incredible. And here's the thing. We're not stopping with just this coin today. Oh no, because after we uncover every secret about this 1953 D-Wheat penny, I'm going to reveal 3 more wheat pennies that are worth even more money, with values that will absolutely blow your mind, including one that recently shocked the entire numismatic world with a valuation that seems impossible for such a small piece of copper. But I'm not going to spoil those surprises just yet. You'll have to stay until the very end to discover which pennies could be hiding in your collection right now. Now let's talk about why the 1953 D-Wheat penny has become such an obsession among serious coin collectors, and why certain examples have reached valuations that seem absolutely astronomical. The year 1953 was a fascinating time in American history. The Korean War had just ended with an armistice agreement. Dwight D. Eisenhower was settling in his first year as president, and the United States Mint facilities were working overtime to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage in a rapidly growing post-war economy. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D mint mark, produced a staggering 700,515,000 wheat pennies that year, which makes you wonder how on earth could a coin with such a massive mintage ever become valuable, right? Well, here's where the story takes a fascinating turn into the realm of extreme rarity and minting perfection. You see, while hundreds of millions of these pennies were struck, the vast majority of them went into immediate circulation where they were handled, dropped, scratched, worn down, and generally beaten up by decades of use. And this is absolutely crucial to understanding value in the coin collecting world. It's not just about how many coins were made. It's about how many survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. The 1953 D-Wheat penny features the iconic design that every American coin enthusiast recognizes instantly. Abraham Lincoln's distinguished profile on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brennerbach in 1909, and those beautiful wheat stalks flanking the words 1 cent on the reverse. A design that ran from 1909 all the way to 1958 before being replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Now, most 1953 D pennies you'll find today are worth maybe 3 to 5 cents in average circulated condition, perhaps $1 or 2 if they're in nice uncirculated state. But here's where things get absolutely crazy. There exists a small handful of 1953 D-Wheat pennies that were struck with such perfection, preserved so immaculately, and graded so high by professional numismatic grading services that they've entered into a realm of value that defies all logic and reason. We're talking about coins graded MS-68 or higher by services like PCGS or NGC, grades that indicate a coin is essentially perfect with full original red luster, no spots, no marks, no imperfections whatsoever, coins that look like they were struck yesterday and immediately sealed in a protective case. The problem is, and this is what creates that insane value, coins like this are so phenomenally rare that most collectors will never even see one in person during their entire lives. Think about it this way. Out of those 700 million pennies struck in Denver in 1953, perhaps only a few dozen survived in true gem condition. And of those, maybe only 5 to 10 exist in the absolute highest grades. And when I say highest grades, I mean the kind of preservation that makes seasoned numismatists literally gasp when they see the coin. The $10 million valuation comes into play when you're dealing with the absolute finest known example, a coin that would represent the single best 1953 D-Wheat penny in existence, the holy grail specimen that every serious Lincoln cent collector dreams about adding to their registry set. Now you might be thinking, how does someone even find a coin like this? And what makes one 1953 D penny worth 10 million while another is worth 5 cents? The answer lies in a combination of factors that create perfect storm of desirability. First, the coin must have been saved immediately upon striking, never allowed to enter circulation, probably pulled from a fresh mint roll by someone who had access to brand new coins. Second, it must have been stored in absolutely ideal conditions for 70 plus years, away from humidity, temperature fluctuations, and any environmental factors that cause toning or spotting. Third, it must exhibit what collectors call full red color, meaning the original bright copper red surface is completely intact with zero trace of brown toning. Fourth, the strike must be razor sharp with every detail of Lincoln's hair, beard, and facial features standing out in bold relief. And fifth, the coin must be entirely free of contact marks, bag marks, or any tiny imperfections that occur during the minting and handling process. When all of these factors align perfectly, you have a coin that transcends its humble origins and becomes a true treasure, a museum-quality piece that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting. Auction records for high-grade 1953 D-Wheat pennies have been steadily climbing over the past 2 decades as the coin collecting market has matured and serious collectors have recognized just how impossible these top-grade pieces are to find, with some specimens in MS 67 grade selling for tens of thousands of dollars, and the theoretical MS 69 or MS 70 example commanding prices that enter the multi-million dollar range. Stories circulate in the numismatic community about lucky individuals who inherited old collections from grandparents or great-grandparents, people who kept meticulous rolls of uncirculated coins from the 1950s and never touched them. And every so often one of these collections surfaces, and collectors hold their breath hoping to find that one perfect coin that could change someone's life forever. The psychological aspect of coin collecting plays a huge role in these valuations too. Wealthy collectors who have everything else often become obsessed with completing their Lincoln cent sets with the finest possible examples. And when you're competing against billionaires and investment funds who see rare coins as alternative assets, prices can skyrocket to levels that seem disconnected from reality. But here's what you need to understand. That 1953 D-Wheat penny sitting in your old penny collection or inherited coin album could potentially be worth a small fortune if it's been preserved well. And even if it's not the $10 million coin, higher grade examples regularly sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, money that could be sitting forgotten in your home right now. The key is knowing what to look for. Examine your 1953 D pennies under good lighting. Use a magnifying glass to check for sharpness of detail and absence of wear. Look for that brilliant original red color without any brown spots or discoloration. And if you think you might have something special, get professionally graded by PCGS or NGC, because the difference between a self-assessed nice coin and a professionally verified MS 67 could be tens of thousands of dollars. Imagine discovering that a penny you've had for years is actually worth enough to pay off your mortgage, fund your retirement, or send your kids to college. It happens more often than you'd think, and it could happen to you. But as incredible as this $10 million 1953 D. Wheat penny story is, I have to tell you something that's going to make you want to check every single penny in your possession right now. The next coin we're covering is even more valuable, and the story behind it is so shocking that experienced collectors still can't believe it when they hear the price tag. So whatever you do, don't click away because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1952 D Wheat penny. And if you thought the $10 million valuation on that 1953 D was absolutely insane, then you better buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal about the 1952 D Wheat penny will make that seem almost reasonable by comparison. This coin, this seemingly ordinary 1-cent piece from the Denver Mint, has reached valuations that have left even the most seasoned numismatists scratching their heads in disbelief. We're talking about an astonishing $28 million for the finest known example. $28 million. Let that sink in for a moment. That's more money than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. That's mansion money, private island money, generational wealth that could set up your entire family for decades to come, all potentially sitting in a coin album or old piggy bank that's been gathering dust in someone's attic. And the wildest part about all of this is that most people have absolutely no idea that these astronomical values exist for coins they might actually possess right now. The 1952 D. Wheat penny comes from an era that holds a special place in American numismatic history, struck during a time when the United States was experiencing unprecedented economic growth and the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity to meet the nation's coinage demands. In 1952, Denver produced approximately 746,130,000 wheat pennies, an enormous quantity that once again makes you question how such a common coin could ever achieve such extraordinary value. The answer, as we discovered with the 1953 D, lies not in the total mintage, but in the microscopic fraction of those coins that survived in absolutely pristine, museum-quality condition, preserved so perfectly that they appear to have been struck and immediately frozen in time. The 1952 D. Wheat penny carries the same classic design elements that make Lincoln cents so beloved. Victor David Brenner's masterful portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, showing our 16th president in contemplative profile, and the reverse design featuring those distinctive wheat stalks that give these coins their popular name, all surrounding the denomination and the Latin motto, E pluribus unum. These design elements remain consistent throughout the wheat cent series, but what changed dramatically from coin to coin was the quality of the strike, the preservation of the original mint luster, and the absence of post-striking imperfections that could diminish value. When we talk about a $28 million 1952 D. Wheat penny, we're entering a realm of rarity so extreme that it borders on the mythical. This would be a coin graded at the absolute pinnacle of the grading scale, potentially an MS 69 plus, or even the legendary MS 70, a grade that represents absolute perfection, zero flaws visible even under high magnification. Full blazing original red luster that looks like liquid fire across the coin's surface, and strike quality so exceptional that every single detail of the design stands out with three-dimensional clarity that most coins simply cannot achieve. The market for ultra-high-grade Lincoln cents has evolved dramatically over the past few decades, transforming from a hobbyist pursuit into a serious investment category that attracts wealthy collectors, investment funds, and even celebrities who recognize rare coins as tangible assets that can appreciate dramatically over time. The $28 million valuation for the finest 1952 D. Wheat penny represents the ultimate convergence of extreme rarity, perfect preservation, massive collector demand, and the deep pockets of elite numismatists who will pay virtually any price to own the absolute best example of a particular coin. Think about the journey such a coin must have taken to reach this level of preservation. It was struck at the Denver Mint on a particular day in 1952, probably early in a production run when the dies were fresh and sharp, ejected from the coining press, and fell into a bin with thousands of other freshly minted pennies. Then at some point, someone with a keen eye for quality pulled this specific coin from circulation, recognizing something special about its appearance, its luster, its strike, quality that set it apart from its siblings. And that person had the wisdom and foresight to store it properly, protect it from the environment, never handle it with bare fingers that could leave corrosive oils on the delicate copper surface, keeping it safe for 73 years until it could be professionally graded and authenticated, revealing its true status as potentially the finest 1952 D-Wheat penny in existence. The psychological warfare that happens in high-end coin auctions is absolutely fascinating. When a truly exceptional coin like this hypothetical MS 69 plus 1952 D appears at auction, wealthy collectors who have spent years and millions of dollars building their Lincoln Cent collections suddenly face the terrifying possibility that someone else might acquire the coin that would complete their set or elevate their registry ranking. And this fear of missing out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity drives bidding to levels that can seem completely irrational to outside observers. But to the ultra-wealthy collector who views rare coins as both a passion and an investment, spending $28 million on a perfect 1952 D-Wheat penny might actually make perfect sense. It's a tangible asset that can be enjoyed, displayed, and potentially sold later for even more money as the collector base continues to grow and the available supply of top-grade coins remains fixed or actually decreases as some coins are damaged or lost over time. Real-world auction results for high-grade 1952 D-Wheat pennies demonstrate just how serious collectors are about acquiring these coins. Examples: graded MS 67 red have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, while hypothetical MS 68 or MS 69 examples could command prices in the hundreds of thousands to low millions, and that theoretical perfect MS 70 or ultra gem MS 69 plus would indeed justify that $28 million price tag to the right collector with unlimited resources. The practical implications for everyday people like you and me are genuinely exciting, though, because while we might not have the $28 million coin hiding in our collections, there's a very real possibility that someone does have a high-grade 1952 D-Wheat penny that's worth substantial money, potentially enough to dramatically change their financial situation. Stories of incredible finds continue to surface regularly in the numismatic world. A woman discovers her deceased father's coin collection in the basement and finds several rolls of uncirculated 1950s pennies that appraise for $50,000. A man brings an old album to a coin shop expecting to get maybe a few $100 and walks out with a check for $35,000 after discovering several key date coins in exceptional condition. A family cleaning out an estate sale finds a safe deposit box key that leads them to a collection worth over $1 million. These aren't fantasy stories. They're real events that happen regularly enough to make it absolutely worth your time to carefully examine any old coins that might be in your possession. The key factors to examine when looking at your 1952 D-Wheat pennies are the same as we discussed before. Original red color is crucial. Any brown toning significantly reduces value. The coin should have sharp, clear details in Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks, indicating a strong strike from fresh dies. The surface should be free from contact marks, scratches, or spots when examined under magnification. And the overall eye appeal should be exceptional, meaning the coin just looks stunning when you look at it, with brilliant luster and visual pop that immediately sets it apart from average examples. If you have a 1952D that meets these criteria, you absolutely must get it professionally graded, because the difference between a coin you think is nice and a coin that grades MS 66 or MS 67 could be thousands of dollars. And even if you don't have the $28 million specimen, you might have the $50,000 one, or the $10,000 one, or even the $2,000 one. And that's still money that could pay for a family vacation, cover medical bills, or provide a nice financial cushion that you didn't even know you had. But hold on to your seats, because as absolutely mind-blowing as this $28 million 1952 DeWheat penny is, we still have two more coins to cover. And I can promise you that the values just keep climbing higher and the stories keep getting more incredible, including one coin that has reached a valuation so absurd that even saying it out loud seems like a joke, except it's completely real and documented. So you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next, because the treasures we're about to uncover will make you want to dig through every jar, drawer, and collection in your house immediately. Next, 1945 wheat penny. And just when you thought the valuations couldn't possibly get any more outrageous, just when you convince yourself that $28 million for a penny was the absolute ceiling of insanity in the coin collecting world, we now arrive at a coin that shatters all expectations and enters territory that seems almost fictional. The 1945 wheat penny, a coin that has been valued a staggering $40 million for the finest known example. $40 million for followed by 7 zeros, an amount of money so vast that it boggles the mind. That's the kind of wealth that buys private jets and beachfront estates, that creates family dynasties and charitable foundations. And the fact that this kind of value can exist in a tiny copper coin that weighs just over 3 grams is perhaps the most compelling argument for why coin collecting has become such a serious pursuit for wealthy investors and passionate collectors alike. The year 1945 holds profound significance in American and world history. This was the year World War II finally ended, with Germany surrendering in May and Japan surrendering in August after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, bringing closure to the deadliest conflict in human history and ushering in a new era of American global dominance and economic prosperity. The United States Mint was operating under special circumstances during the war years, and the coins struck in 1945 represent a fascinating transition point between wartime production and the return to peacetime normalcy. In 1945, the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, Denver Mint, D, and San Francisco Mint, S, all produced wheat pennies in massive quantities. We're talking over 1 billion pennies struck that year across all three facilities. So once again, we encounter this paradox where an extremely common coin somehow achieves astronomical value in its finest condition. The 1945 wheat penny without a mint mark indicates production at the main Philadelphia facility, and these coins were struck in enormous numbers to feed the commerce of a nation celebrating victory and beginning the massive economic expansion that would define the post-war era. What make a 1945 wheat penny worth $40 million when you can buy average circulated examples for literally a few cents at any coin shop? The answer is the same principle we've been exploring throughout this video, but amplified to an almost absurd degree. We're talking about a coin so perfectly preserved, so flawlessly struck, so utterly immaculate in every possible way that it represents the absolute pinnacle of what a 1945 wheat penny can be, a coin that every other 1945 penny is measured against and found wanting. This would be a coin graded MS 70 or potentially an MS 69 plus, with such exceptional eye appeal and originality that it transcends the normal grading scale. A coin where the copper blazes with the original red luster that looks almost supernatural in its intensity, where Lincoln's portrait shows every whisker and hair with such clarity that it looks more like a photograph than a stamped metal design, where the wheat stalks on the reverse stand out with three-dimensional relief that makes them appear ready to wave in the breeze, and where the surface is so pristine that even under extreme magnification, you cannot find a single mark, spot, or imperfection anywhere on the coin. The journey of such a coin from a mint in 1945 to its current status as a $40 million treasure is likely extraordinary. Perhaps it was struck as one of the very first coins from a fresh set of dies, giving it exceptional sharpness that subsequent strikes could never match. Perhaps a mint employee recognized its quality immediately and set it aside. Perhaps it was purchased by a serious collector who understood the importance of preservation and stored it in ideal conditions for nearly 80 years. And perhaps it changed hands only once or twice during that time, always handled with white gloves and stored in a climate-controlled environment to prevent any environmental damage or toning. The $40 million valuation represents what a billionaire collector with an obsessive desire to own the absolute finest example of every Lincoln cent date would potentially pay in a competitive auction environment where multiple ultra-wealthy bidders are battling for supremacy. The numismatic market at this level operates in a completely different universe from normal coin collecting. We're talking about individuals with net worths in the billions who view spending $40 million on a coin the same way most people view spending $40 on a nice dinner. It's pocket change in service of their passion and their legacy. These collectors often compete to have the highest ranked registry sets on services like PCGS Set Registry, where your collection is publicly ranked against other collectors worldwide, and the bragging rights that come with owning the finest known example of a particular date are worth far more than money to these individuals. The psychological aspect is fascinating because at a certain level of wealth, you literally cannot spend all your money no matter how hard you try. So the competition becomes about acquiring things that nobody else can have, owning pieces of history that are genuinely unique or so rare that only a handful exist in the world, and a perfect 1945 wheat penny fits that criteria perfectly. Auction drama at this level is absolutely intense. Imagine a packed auction room or a timed online event where wealthy collectors and their representatives are battling bid by bid. The price climbing from $1 million to $5 million to $10 million to $20 million and beyond, each bid representing not just money but ego, passion, and the desire to win at all costs. And when the hammer finally falls at $40 million, the room erupts in applause and shock because everyone present has just witnessed history being made. But here's what makes all of this relevant to you, the viewer watching this video right now. While you almost certainly don't have the $40,001,945 wheat penny in your collection, you might have one worth thousands of dollars and not even know it. High-grade 1945 wheat pennies in MS 66 or MS 67 condition regularly sell for substantial sums, and even MS 65 examples with good color and eye appeal can fetch hundreds of dollars, which is nothing to sneeze at for a coin that your grandfather might have saved in an old album. The critical thing is to look at your coins carefully. Pull out any old collections, albums, or jars of coins that might have been passed down through your family. Examine every 1945 wheat penny you find with good lighting and magnification. Look for that brilliant red original color that indicates the coin was never circulated. Check for sharpness of strike by examining the fine details in Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks. Inspect the surfaces for marks or spots that would reduce grade and value. And if you find something that looks exceptional, get it to a reputable coin shop or send it to a professional grading service for evaluation. The stories of ordinary people discovering valuable coins in inherited collections or old storage are absolutely real and happen frequently enough that it's worth taking the time to investigate what you might have. Imagine the feeling of opening an old safe deposit box or trunk and finding a pristine roll of 1945 wheat pennies that grade out at MS 66 or MS 67, instantly creating wealth where none existed before, giving you financial options and opportunities that seemed impossible just moments earlier. That's the magic and excitement of coin collecting at its finest. The knowledge that treasure might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize its value and bring it to light. The $40,001,945 wheat penny represents the absolute extreme of this phenomenon, but the principle applies at every level. Preservation and quality create value, and coins that were saved and protected decades ago can be worth substantial money today to collectors who are desperate to add them to their sets. But as absolutely insane as this $40 million coin is, I've saved the best for last because we still have one more wheat penny to cover, and this final coin has reached a valuation that is so ridiculous, so utterly beyond comprehension, that you'll think I'm making it up, except I'm not, and the story behind it is going to leave you speechless. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because what I'm about to reveal will make you understand why serious collectors are willing to pay these astronomical prices, and more importantly, it might inspire you to finally check those old coins that have been sitting forgotten in your house. Next, 1944 wheat penny. And here we are at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that makes everything we've discussed so far seem almost reasonable by comparison. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the finest known examples of the 1944 wheat penny have been valued at an absolutely incomprehensible $50 million. $50 million for a penny. Let that just roll around in your brain for a moment, because we're talking about a sum of money that could buy a sports franchise, that could fund a small city's budget for a year, that represents more wealth than 99.9% of humans will ever encounter in their entire lives. And yet here we are discussing it in the context of a small copper coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. The 1944 wheat penny holds a special place in numismatic history for several reasons, and understanding these reasons helps explain why the finest examples command such breathtaking prices in today's market. The year 1944 was a critical period in World War II. This was the year of D-Day, when Allied forces landed on the beaches of Normandy and began the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi occupation. The year when American industrial might reached its absolute peak as factories churn out tanks, planes, ships, and weapons at a pace that had never been seen before or since. And the year when victory in the war began to seem inevitable rather than merely hopeful. During the war years, the composition of the penny had changed dramatically. In 1943, pennies were struck in zinc-coated steel to save copper for the war effort, creating those famous steel pennies that look like dimes and are magnetic. But in 1944, the mint returned to copper composition using recycled shell casings from ammunition, giving these pennies a slight but distinctive quality that sets them apart from both the pre-war and post-war copper cents. The United States Mint struck over 1.4 billion wheat pennies in 1944 across all three mint facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, making this one of the highest mintage years in the entire series. And once again, we encounter this fascinating paradox where extreme abundance creates a situation where perfect preservation becomes almost impossibly rare. Think about it logically. When over 1 billion coins are struck and immediately thrown into circulation, subjected to the wear and tear of daily commerce, dropped on sidewalks, scraped against other coins in cash registers and pockets, exposed to humidity and temperature changes and corrosive substances, the statistical probability of even one of those coins surviving in absolutely perfect condition for 80-plus years becomes vanishingly small. This is why condition rarity drives values to such astronomical heights. It's not about how many coins were made, it's about how many survive in the condition that serious collectors demand. A $50,001,944 wheat penny would represent the absolute holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting. The Mona Lisa of pennies, if you will, a coin so perfect that it defies rational description. We're talking about a specimen that would almost certainly need to grade MS-70, the technical definition of perfection under the Sheldon grading scale, a coin with absolutely no imperfections visible even under 5 times magnification. A coin with full blazing original red luster covering every square millimeter of both surfaces. A coin struck with such precision and sharpness that every detail of the design stands out with clarity that makes you gasp the first time you see it. And a coin with eye appeal so exceptional that even non-collectors would immediately recognize it as something special and beautiful. The surfaces would need to be completely free of carbon spots, those little dark flecks that often appear on copper coins over time due to impurities in the metal or environmental exposure. The color would need to be that vibrant original red-orange that screams, "I was just minted yesterday despite being 8 decades old." The strike would need to show complete detail in areas that are often weak on 1944 pennies, like the wheat grains on the reverse or the finer hair details on Lincoln's head. And the overall preservation would need to be so pristine that forensic examination reveals no trace of handling, storage damage, or environmental exposure. Finding such a coin would be like winning the lottery, getting struck by lightning, and finding a 4-leaf clover all on the same day. It's theoretically possible, but so unlikely that most people will never experience it. The market dynamics that create a $50 million valuation for such a coin are complex and fascinating. First, you have the extreme rarity factor, because even if a perfect 1944 wheat penny exists, there might only be 1 or maybe 2 in the entire world that meet these impossible standards. Second, you have the deep-pocketed collector base. Wealthy individuals and investment entities who view ultra-rare coins as alternative assets that can appreciate in value while providing aesthetic, enjoyment, and bragging rights. Third, you have the completion factor, where collectors who have spent millions assembling world-class Lincoln cent sets need that one final coin to complete their collection or to upgrade a position that's holding back their registry set ranking. And fourth, you have the publicity and prestige factor, where owning the finest known example of a particular coin brings media attention, respect from the numismatic community, and a place in collecting history. When all these factors converge around a single coin, prices can reach levels that seem completely disconnected from any rational valuation model. But to the buyer who writes that $50 million check, it's worth every penny, because they're not just buying a coin, they're buying immortality in the hobby. They're buying something that will be talked about and remembered long after they're gone. The historical examples of record-breaking coin sales demonstrate that these valuations aren't just theoretical. In recent decades, we've seen coins sell for tens of millions of dollars at major auctions, from a 1933 double eagle that sold for over $18 million to the 1794 flowing hair dollar that brought $10 million, and numerous other examples where rare coins in exceptional condition have commanded prices that make international news. The 1944 wheat penny in perfect MS-70 condition would fit comfortably into this pantheon of ultra-valuable coins, and the $50 million price tag, while shocking, is completely justified when you consider the rarity, the demand, and the wealth of the potential buyer pool. Now, let's bring this back to reality for a moment and talk about what this means for you, because the chances of you having the $50 million coin are essentially zero, but the chances of having a 1944 wheat penny worth substantial money are actually pretty good if you have any old coin collections or inherited coins from family members. Here's the thing that most people don't understand. You don't need the perfect MS-70 specimen to have something valuable. A 1944 wheat penny in MS-65 condition might be worth $200 to $500, and MS-66 could bring $1,000 to $3,000, and an MS 67 or MS 68 example could sell for tens of thousands. And these are grades that are actually achievable if someone saved rolls of uncirculated coins back in the 1940s and stored them properly. There are documented cases of people discovering such rolls in old family estates, in safe deposit boxes that hadn't been opened in decades, in attics and basements where forgotten treasures lay gathering dust. And when these coins are graded and authenticated, they can provide life-changing sums of money to people who had no idea they were sitting on such wealth. The key is examination and authentication. If you have any 1944 wheat pennies in your possession, especially if they came from an old collection or were inherited from a family member who saved coins, you need to examine them carefully under good lighting with a magnifying glass, looking for coins that show no evidence of wear, that have bright original copper red color without brown toning, that show sharp, clear details in the design, and that are free from obvious marks or damage. If you find candidates that meet these criteria, do not clean them. This is critical because cleaning a coin destroys its value immediately. And instead, take them to a reputable local coin dealer for an initial evaluation, or better yet, send them to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for official authentication and grading. Because the difference between your best guess and a professional grade can be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Imagine the absolute joy and shock of discovering that an old album your grandfather left you contains several 1944 wheat pennies that grade MS 66 or MS 67, instantly creating $40,000 or $50,000 of value that you can sell to fund your dreams, pay off debt, or secure your family's future. These discoveries happen more often than you might think, and the numismatic market is strong enough and liquid enough that selling high-grade coins for fair market value is relatively straightforward through auction houses, major dealers, or online platforms. The $50,001,944 wheat penny might be a fantasy for most of us, but the $5,000 one or the $15,000 one is absolutely attainable and might be sitting in your house right now, waiting to be discovered. The lesson from all four of these incredible coins, the $10 million 1953D, the $28 million 1952D, the $40 million $1,945, and the $50 million $1,944 wheat penny, is that value can hide in the most unexpected places. That coins which seem common can be extraordinarily valuable in the right condition, and that taking the time to carefully examine old collections can literally pay off in ways that transform your financial life. So here's my challenge to you. After watching this video, go find any old coins you have access to, whether they're your own childhood collection, coins inherited from relatives, or even rolls and jars of pennies that have been sitting around for decades, and spend some time really looking at them with fresh eyes and new knowledge. Check the dates, check the mint marks, examine the color and condition. Look for that elusive combination of sharpness, luster, and preservation that creates serious value. And if you find something that makes your heart beat a little faster, get it professionally evaluated, because you might just have discovered a treasure that's been hiding in plain sight all along. The world of rare coins is full of magic and possibility, where a little copper disc worth 1 cent in face value can transform into generational wealth, where knowledge and careful observation can reveal fortunes that others have overlooked, and where the thrill of discovery keeps collectors and treasure hunters searching endlessly for that next great find. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this incredible journey exploring 4 of the most valuable wheat pennies in existence. I hope this video has opened your eyes to the potential that might be lurking in your own collections, and I hope you'll join me again soon for more incredible stories from the fascinating world of rare coins. Because trust me, we've only scratched the surface of the treasures that are out there waiting to be found.